You'd be surprised what a merchant can get up to in these 100 days, such as solo sinking a galleon, among many other things, and I can promise you that this will be one of the most epic tales you'll hear on these waters. From voyages to steals and a bucket load of luck, you can't get much crazier than this story today. Join me, Captain Daddy, as we make a huge push towards our status as pirate legend, reaching 2/3 of the way there whilst achieving some things I would never have thought possible amongst a sea of thieves. Day 1, I awoke with curiosity, followed by a determination to be a great merchant on the seas, having previously attempted commodity runs and wanting to see how much else there was to do as one. Raising the emissary flag and purchasing these commodities, I began with something familiar, sailing between outposts and selling goods for a better price. My first 2 days were filled with hope, but by the end of day 2, this quickly changed. A skeleton galleon sailed past and I was hungry for some loot, but after a long fight with many cannons fired, this vessel had got the best of me, and despite my valiant efforts, I was sunk along with the red beard. Day 3, we reset and carried on our previous mission. However, straight away a skeleton sloop and galleon were upon me, and I knew the seas were not going to make it easy for me today. So I did what I could and sailed off, narrowly avoiding yet another sink so early on. I carried on these emissary runs until day 10. I was met by one final damn skeleton sloop, and yes, I'm ashamed to admit that these got the best of me, and once again I sank with all of my commodities. I knew that after this, I needed to try something new, and that's precisely what I did, after complaining for the rest of the night about my naval abilities. So day 11 began with another emissary flag being raised. However, this time, I would purchase a map showing a route from a lost shipment that had set sail some time ago. My mission was to track it down, discovering the captain's logbooks and any crates that they may have had. I won't lie, I very much enjoyed these voyages, hearing of many lost friends being drank with on the islands that were buried on, also following notes eventually leading me to a captain's key, which I would later learn once I had found my first lost shipwreck, that it would allow me to access the captain's quarters where they had sealed all of the crates inside. The amount of loot I gathered from this was incredible, getting me straight to emissary level 5, and going back to sell was even more so, feeling the weight of much more gold in my pockets. But this was just the start. After several more days of many more shipwrecks, on day 17 I had planned to try out an emissary quest for the merchants, collecting fabrics, plants and glass bottles from clients to deliver, and in doing so I knew I had to take care of these. However, whilst I tried to do so, the Kraken had other plans, rising up and thrashing about my ship, but quite soon I had taken her down and lived to sail another day. But it was now that the real challenge began. As I neared my destination, I began harpooning anything I could see from islands, and not realising one of these were a keg. It ended in me blowing up part of my ship, and most of the goods I was due to deliver. Despite this, I knew I could at least make a small buck from them, transporting what I could, but that is when they came. As I delivered the crates to the one waiting for them, I noticed 3 sails. Yep, that's right. A galleon had somehow snuck up on me, and it was now a battle to survive. As they fired on my ship, I quickly hopped on board theirs and hid, noticing a nice looking reaper's chest on deck. Expecting not to make it out alive, I threw their chest overboard, but that is when I decided to strike. And so did the islanders, firing a cannon right at one of the pirates, evening the odds, and as they continued to blast holes in their port side, I took on the crewmates. This fight was epic, and I shot and slashed my way through them, and before long, their ship had met its end as it sank below the waves. However, I now had to return to mine and save it from a similar fate. I finally managed to stop the flames before selling the rest of the goods. However, they soon returned and I was not looking to try this again. So I headed back to an outpost where they once again challenged me. I tried to be nice, but these pirates were not in the mood for parley, so I parked my ship by theirs, sending a barrage of cannons towards them, until finally, they fled for good, but the sea battles did not stop there. After many more lost shipment runs, on the 29th day, I spotted a skull in the sky, pointing me to a fort of fortune. I did what I had to, parking my ship behind a rock and swimming over to them, boarding the galleon as I ran straight past them. And somehow, they had not seen me. After hearing a harpoon, I thought maybe now was my time to pounce. However, after killing them, I had noticed they had not yet completed the fort, and there was nothing but small bits of treasure. So I jumped off their ship and climbed into one of the towers, waiting for something to happen, and it soon did. On the dawn of day 30, I spotted a brigantine entering to fight the galleon, followed by a sloop, followed by a skeleton galleon, and I was ready to watch this unfold, seeing who the victor would be. As you'd expect, the sloop was quickly sunk, but as it did, another brigantine charged towards this encounter. Before they reached the fight, the other ship was sunk, and following all of the others, including the skeleton ship, the galleon was the only one left standing. I felt so out of place here, a little sloop merchant amongst this whole ordeal, but the winners didn't have long to rest before one of the other brigantines returned. And they had a mighty battle that lasted an age. Both fought hard, however they both sailed away into the fog, and after waiting and waiting, they did not return, and this battle had disrupted my plans in stealing any loot for now. After holding out for so long at the fort, we were now beginning day 34, as my brother decided to join me and help on any voyages, but before we were able to raise any emissary flags, an active Fort of the Damned was spotted, and I could not let this opportunity go. Whilst heading over there, I showed him my new pet monkey called Mikey, and I'm sure he will be my good luck charm after you hear the rest of this tale. But upon nearing the fort, I had my shipmate parked behind an island ready to pick me up if needed, whilst I swam over and tucked inside the parked brigantine. I waited until my brother had given me the go-ahead that the fort had been completed, and after hearing the harpoon many times, I took my chance to jump on deck, take out the pirate on board, and spotted a chest of legends, which I grabbed and dived off the boat with, swimming away best I could. An issue arose, however, when our ship had been spotted, and as my crewmate tried to pick me up, they were kegged, and so we lost our vessel, so it was now up to me to swim this chest to safety. After much longer than I would have liked and facing many sharks, I made it to a dock where I eagerly awaited the return of the Redbeard, whilst hiding from the nearby brig sailing past me. Finally though, I was found and back on board my ship as we both revelled in our victory, passing the chest between us and selling my first stolen chest of legends at the end of day 37. Day 38 began and we sailed off to find the brigantine from the fort to see if they had any spare loot. However, before reaching them, we got caught inside of a fleet battle. We had a long battle fighting it out with all of the ships, and with 2 pirates on this sloop, we were able to do these with not too much hassle. However, any loot would be sunk to the bottom of the ocean as a brigantine sailed into us and we fired back. Eventually, I was able to get a good board on them and repeatedly kill their crew, crashing their ship into rocks until after all of this chaos, we had sunk them. But this victory was bittersweet, as I mentioned before that we had lost all of the loot due to this encounter. To calm down after all of this action, between days 39 and 64, we just sailed around peacefully, finding as many lost shipments as we could, as my brother was feeling low on funds, and I won't say no to extra gold. Honestly, doing this was so relaxing, and if you want to try and chill out amongst the seas, lost shipment voyages are the way to go. However, when a Reaper doing an Ash and Winds is right next to where you need to go, you must prepare for war, or cut your losses and leave. After the days we had had so far, I was not turning down this challenge, and headfirst we sailed towards them, before hiding behind a rock whilst I swam over to check them out. I waited until their ship had been hit by falling meteors from the Ashen Lord, before boarding them, killing them all and rather quickly sinking their vessel. We quickly took out the Ashen Lord, collecting his skull and the rest of the loot. However, as you know, brigs are just too fast, and they were soon upon us again, but this time we were not able to defend, and we were the ones losing the treasure today. After such an adventure already, we were happy with what we had achieved already, and honestly can say that we were not demoralised by this. So we carried on with yet even more lost shipments, until on day 77, my shipmate left me to once again fend for myself. I'd like to say that the rest of the days up until day 99 were eventful, but other than a sloop that tried to attack me but was quickly scared off after a single board on them, nothing else came my way until my final lost shipment voyage took me through the fog. I quickly found myself lost and unable to find any signs from the lost ship. However, I was quickly met by an angry megalodon, and taking advice from some of you from the tavern, I pulled up my sails firing at this beast, and before long I had taken them down without the meg running off. However, from here, things only got better. Whilst collecting more from the voyage, I was aware of a green skull fort active in the skies. And once I had collected all of the crates from the shipwreck and sold them, the skull vanished, and I knew that I wanted that treasure. Knowing it would take time to get everything on board, I sailed to the closest outpost to them to try and prevent any selling, but this would prove to once again fail me, as they quickly sailed off in the opposite direction. Feeling annoyed I had messed this up again, I was not going to let them sell all of the treasure, and even just one stolen item was enough. So after sailing to Golden Sands Outpost, expecting to see them there, I had once again been bamboozled. On the 100th day, despite them having no Reaper flag up, this ship was seen parked at the hideout, and I knew I was too late, but I sailed there anyway to see if he had finished. Upon arriving, I saw still a small amount of loot on the island, and I wanted it. After all of this sailing, it was the least I had deserved, but the seas would be a bit more kind than I was expecting. Taking him out and making sure that his ship sank to the bottom of the ocean. Once it had, I was happy over this small little victory. However, when taking some loot inside, I had noticed that this man had sold possibly nothing, and all of the loot from the fort was placed inside ready for me to sell quickly. And just like that, I had stolen my biggest pile of loot yet, successfully. So after this, I felt it was time to take a rest from the seas and reflect on these epic 100 days as the Merchant of Death. This was by far the most insane adventure I've had to date, with my first chest of legend steel, sinking a galleon as a solo sloop, stealing a whole fort worth of loot, and reaching level 50 as a merchant. I cannot wait for more tales like this. However, if you have any to tell of your own, or looking to create some memories amongst the seas, join my Discord in the description below. We'd love to have you. And if you want more of this content, be sure to check out my previous tale, in which I show you something to avoid inside the Sea of Thieves. I've been Captain Daddy, and until next time, arrgh!